of the main group behind the farmers' protests. We have been watching them for the last weeks and months, but it does seem as though right now they may be losing momentum.
Not quite. You have a bit of ups and downs.
The government has said that it's suspending the implementation of the 3 farm laws that you are so upset about, while a committee looks at the detail and perhaps considers adaptation and change. Why are you not prepared to give that committee a chance, tell all of the farmers to go home and defuse the tension? What is anti-farmer about the desire to make farming more prosperous? You know better than I that Prime Minister Modi back in 2016 promised to double farmers' incomes over the following 6 years. He says this reform is absolutely crucial to delivering on his promise to make farmers substantially better off.
What the farmers need is better marketing infrastructure. They have been demanding it. The government doesn't respond to it. What the farmers need is better protection against risk mitigation. The government has to do something about it. They don't respond to it.
Yeah, they do. They do. The government has said that it guarantees that the price support to ensure a minimum price guarantee for farmers will be maintained in this new system that they want to introduce.
That's one of the beautiful design lies the government peddles all the time. You declared a minimum support price. Just give it to us. That's all.
But hang on, you seem to be in the bizarre position of protecting and defending the status quo. And the status quo for the last generation or so has been really bad for many, many farmers. And we know that not least because more than 10,000 a year commit suicide, living in absolute poverty and rural misery. Why are you intent on defending a system which clearly doesn't work?
This is something which not a single farmer union ever asked for.
But isn't this really about where India's going, about the very soul of India today? Because Narendra Modi's whole proposition is the country needs fundamental economic reform. And to quote the BJP General Secretary, whom we've had on this show, Ram Madhavi, said recently, fear of the market is inherent in the psyche of many societies that were exposed to socialistic, protectionist practices for far too long. That's a mindset that Modi and his team are determined to get rid of. And may I say, perhaps it's a mindset that you and some others at the head of this farmers' movement are still defending.
That could be an impression from outside, and it would be a pity if the soul of India were to be reduced to markets. I really thought the ruling party, Mr. Ram Madhav and others, would find something better to anchor the soul of India. As for the socialist...
Well, to be fair, that was my interpretation of how deep this argument is. He didn't use that phrase, but it does seem to me that, as I said at the very beginning, Modi versus the farmers is an existentially important moment for India. And I'm just trying to get a sense of the vision you have for the India that you're currently fighting for.
We have been saying quite clearly that we want minimum state support. This is textbook economics in reality. We need more markets. We need protected markets. We need some minimum assured prices. And after that, we want free market to flow.
Right. Well, let's get to tactics then and where you go from where you are today, because it seems to me something very important happened on January 26th, which I believe in India is Republic Day, but more to the point, this year was a day which saw really serious clashes between police in Delhi, right in the center of Delhi, the Red Fort governmental area of Delhi, and a host of protesters who did appear, according to the pictures I saw, to be intent on violence. Now, how damaging was that? Because it was seen all over India by many, many millions of people.
और डंडे तैयार रख लो, डंडे तैयार रख लो, प्यारे फिर हथियारे प्यार नाल नहीं खुलणगे, हथियार नाल खुलणगे, डंडे मारने सिर च स्टेनिंग नाल खो के ना मारांगे जे नहीं मनणगे तां।
How is it that in the presence of police, and you can see them sitting on the chairs, there's a long BBC footage of about an hour or so,
but
police sitting, watching, allowing all this to happen.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm a little confused about what point you're making, because Indian government officials have drawn parallels with what happened in the assault, the mob assault on the US Capitol. They've said that what happened on January 26th in Delhi was equally unacceptable. And I don't know if you're being misquoted, but I saw a quote from you on the Press Trust of India website, you saying, "I feel ashamed of the way things proceeded and I take responsibility for it." So was that a misquote, or do you feel a sense of shame?
This is completely unacceptable for this to happen on the Red Fort.
So you do feel a sense of shame? I'm sorry, I just want to get very clear here, because, again, Indians across the country are going to be listening to your words. That was shameful, was it? So how do you ensure that it never, ever happens again? What do you do with the extremists in your midst?
I'm saying quite clearly what happened was shameful.
So some of the questions are, yes, I understand, Mr. Yadav, some of the questions are being laid at your door. I understand there's a police investigation and that you have been named as one of those that the police want to investigate. What is happening with that?
Well, the police has come up with a very general charge sheet saying all the leaders need to be investigated. That
the farmers' movement has been taken over by those seeking to achieve their objective of a Khalistan, that is a Sikh separatist movement, and also those who from outside the country are seeking to pursue an Islamist agenda. As best you know it, is either that Khalistan political objective or the Islamist agenda part of what motivates some people currently sitting in your protest camps?
Nothing can be more ridiculous than that.
Right now, it still looks as though Prime Minister Modi commands the support of a clear majority of the Indian people, including people who have watched the standoff with the farmers' movement. If you look at opinion polling, his approval ratings are still high. It still looks as though the BJP is in a very strong position to do well in regional elections in April. How can you explain the popularity continuing of Narendra Modi?
In my previous birth, I was a technical pollster, so I would resist the temptation of getting into polling and such like.
I wonder whether you are overestimating the power of the farming movement to change the dynamic.
That's the larger challenge. The story you referred to is about my father, who actually watched his own father being butchered by a Muslim mob. And then he turned around and said, "No, I'm not going to hate Muslims. I'm going to name my son. I'm going to give my son a Muslim name." Now, that's not about me. That's about my father. That's about the spirit of India. That's about Mahatma Gandhi. That's
it's a fascinating story, but it's a story of an India that no longer exists.
That's where I see people like me playing a role.
And yet, if I may say so, just to finish, the truth is Narendra Modi wins elections and your Swaraj, very secular party, doesn't win any seats regionally or nationally. That's my point. That's the India of today.